to a YouTube channel near you.
Hey, good evening, everybody, and welcome to Spiritual Street Talk with Althea Jacob. I'm Althea, and I am delighted that you have joined us tonight. If you are listening and watching in live, or if you are streaming in this sometime in the future, thank you so much for tuning into this episode. Hopefully, it will bring you some upliftment and bring you some guidance or direction, or maybe just teach you something you didn't know, or give you something to think about and ponder. The purpose of my show, Spiritual Street Talk, is to kind of be that bridge, to bridge that gap, because so many metaphysical and esoteric and spiritual things are just, they're so like complicated and airy-fairy, and like it's like hard to get your mind around it. So I like to kind of bring it down to earth and help you understand the different topics from wherever they may be. So that is there. If you are watching live, you have the ability to put comments in the chat. And if you have a question or have a topic that you would like me to discuss, please put that all in caps, and I will be more than happy to answer whatever questions you have, or take whatever topic you would like us to focus on and go with that. So for those of you who are new to Spiritual Street Talk, the format of the show is pretty straightforward. For the first few minutes, I basically talk about whatever's been on my mind and heart, how the week's been, just whatever occurs to me that might be fun to share. And then I've asked Spirit for some messages, and I chose some angel cards and oracle cards and tarot cards. And so I will be choosing and picking some of those and sharing those messages. Hey, Virgil. Wow, Manchester, England. Welcome, welcome. So nice to have you here tonight. And then I'll probably read a little bit from one of my books, or maybe both of my books. We'll see. Just whatever feels right. And then after doing all that, we open up the floor to, like I said, to any comments or questions from anybody who's on live. And we go from there. So what's been on my mind and heart this week? Well, I have been getting ready for I did a tag sale. So that was really cool. Hey, Lorna. Hey, Meshel. Nice to see you guys. It's all the UK group. Wow, it's so cool. I have nobody from the US yet, but I got 3 people from the UK tuned in. That's pretty exciting. Welcome, y'all. You guys rock. So anyway, I did a tag sale this past weekend, and then, which was fun. It was a hoot. It was so nice to get rid of stuff that I didn't want anymore and see the joy on people's faces as they found my little treasures became their treasures. So that was awesome and fun. And then what was interesting, I decided I was going to bring a lot of other things from my house and whatnot to an auction house, to have them do that an online auction. And I'm bringing all that stuff tomorrow. Had made an appointment with them. So I've just been kind of going through everything and saying, okay, is this staying or going? Do I need this or not? And let me tell you, it's very therapeutic. It's very therapeutic in order to, go through all your old stuff and say, yeah, you know what? I'm willing to let this go. And especially when I'm willing to let this go because it can become somebody else's treasure, right? So that's been kind of cool. So that's kind of been on my mind. I've just been busier than busy trying to go through things and get it there. And what else will fit in my car as I'm packing things in there to bring to the auction house, and, labeling stuff if it's something obscure that I don't think they might know what it is. Because I figured if it's labeled nicely and it looks nice and, it's kind of organized, it probably will sell for a little better. But anyway, so I've been doing that. Been watching on the Weather Channel here in the state. Oh yeah, Lorna's agreeing with me that it's therapeutic to let stuff go, especially when you let it go and you know that somebody else is going to want it, enjoy it, and just it's going to become their little treasure, right? And bring them a little happiness too. So it's not like just sitting in a drawer or a closet or out and about on a storage shelf somewhere. It's actually going to be it's going to be used again. And so that's kind of nice. It lets it fulfill its purpose in some ways. The other thing that happened this week, I've been watching the Weather Channel, and they've been talking a lot about the 20th anniversary, I think it's today, of Hurricane Katrina. And 20 years have gone by, and they're like, well, what lessons did we learn? And I think back, because I'm old enough to remember that, and remember watching it live on TV, and at the time, and being just totally shocked at, watching all these poor people on the roofs of their houses waiting to be rescued, and all the people in the Superdome, thousands of people waiting there. And, so many people just had, lost everything, and they were waiting for help. And in a lot of cases, the help never came, or it came really, really late because of all kinds of bad reasons. Hey, Anthony, welcome. Hi, Susan, welcome. So one of the things that it just made me think about was, isn't it a good thing that we can learn from our mistakes, right? We learn them in our personal life as well, but even on a citywide level or a nationwide level, we're able to learn from our mistakes and hopefully prepare more, from, and not have those things happen again. And I guess testament to that is, recently we've had some terrible floodings and, tornado disasters and floodings, and you see how quickly the aid comes and how the neighbors help neighbors. And you don't hear those kind of horrible stories that we did from 20 years ago. So, there's something nice to at least acknowledge there that, okay, that was horrible back then. And I pray for anybody who lost loved ones or lost everything and just, struggled and suffered back then. And their situation created enough change and enough momentum that, thank God, nothing like that will ever happen again. We as neighbors, we as citizens of a country will rally together and make sure response happens so much more quickly. And so that made me think about, how about in our own lives? Are we learning enough in our struggles and our failures? Have we stepped back and said, oh, how do I make sure that doesn't happen again? What do I need to prepare? What help do I need to have in place? Or who do I need to reach out to make sure I don't wind up in that same quicksand again, right? And yeah, oh my God, the years do fly by. I couldn't believe when they said it was the 20-year anniversary. I was like, my mind just kind of got blown by that. But it is something weird about time, isn't it? Like when we're younger, like each day feels kind of long, and the weeks themselves can feel a little long. But the next thing you know, like the months are flying by and the years are flying by, and you're like, what? A 20-year anniversary, right? And we also had, not that long ago, we had the celebration of 9/11. Was more than 20 years ago. And you're like, wow, this is just nuts. That these major things happened, but they were such impactful things in our lives. But I can look back at little things in just my life, right? That things that majorly impacted me didn't impact the whole city or the whole country. It impacted me and maybe a small grouping of family or friends. Like when my father died of a heart attack at age 41, and you're like, 46 rather, and that was back in 1987. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe it's been that long. Even my brother died in 2006. And I'm like, oh my God, that's going to be 20 years next year. And it's like, how is that even possible? It's very interesting. And what's really even more interesting is that, yes, somebody just turned. Yes, hello, Miss Annie. Congratulations on turning 60. And she asked, "How did that happen?" I know, right? When I'm 60. I just turned 63, and I'm like, "How is that possible?" On the inside, that you don't feel that way. Sometimes the body and the knees and the rest of it, you're like, "Oh yeah, hell, I know. I'm a senior citizen. I know. I get it." But and Nikki, thank you for the asking how I'm doing. Yep, the medication is helping a lot for this whole arm shoulder situation. I got some physical therapy and I got some massage work done, and And it's, I'm hoping and praying. I'll know a lot more in about another 10 days after the medicine's totally done. And if the symptoms stay away, then we got it. If they come back, then I have to go into the hospital and have nasty tests done. But I'm one of these optimistic people. I'm always hoping for the best. But back to learning, right? We have to learn from those situations, and time does fly by. But what's interesting is in the spirit world, they have a whole different, I don't understand it, right? Because I'm a finite mind trying to understand this infinity that's out there. But they don't have a concept of time like we do. And so it's kind of hard to understand it. But then when you think back over your life and you realize, like, oh my God, it seemed like yesterday I was in, kindergarten or grade school or high school and college and my first job and the next job and, the first major dating, boyfriends and fiancés and marriages and what, you're like all these milestones. And yet here you are, and you can access that whole bunch, and you can think back to every one of those moments and like re-access all those times. So I think in a way that might be at least the closest clue we have about. Susan just said, I have everybody beat at 66. Well, yeah, okay, you win. You can gladly win that one. Welcome. So I think that's the closest maybe metaphor we would have to how spirit views time, because they can kind of pick and choose any moment of time in our life, past, present, or future. And to them, it's just like they just have to access it. Just like we can access the now and everything to our past, we can think about and imagine the future, but they can actually kind of see it or tap into it a little bit. So anyway, I've been thinking a lot about time, with all these anniversaries. And the other thing I was thinking of was how much I love barter. I love barter. When you take your gifts and services and you do something for somebody, and then they take their skills and services and do something back for you. So I had this gentleman and his friend come to me for an in-person reading. They were interested in not just the psychic stuff, but also some mediumship work and to communicate with a loved one who passed, or several loved ones that passed. And so I did the readings for them. It was awesome, really nice, strong connection. He got tons out of it. His friend took notes. And okay, Lauren is teasing us because she's only in her 30s. So ha 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 ha, she says, sort of, kind of, but with a nice way, because she's from the UK, and of course they're very, very pleasant and polite there. So she wouldn't like stick her tongue out and do a raspberry like a New Yorker might. But so anyway, back to I got Lauren totally distracted by your 30s. That's so funny. What was I talking about? Okay, so if somebody was paying attention, what was I talking about? Put it in the chat. Oh my God, my brain. Oh, barter. Sorry, I got it. It came back. Yeah, sign of the 60s, right? Oh, remind me, I'm going to talk to you guys about a supplement that I heard about. I started to talk about it last time, but there's two I want to talk about tonight. We'll get there. So barter. So I did this great reading for this guy. Well, he happens to be a handyman. And so he came over on Wednesday, and instead, I had read for him and, did my stuff for him. He came and he put a light fixture in for me. He helped me hang all these pictures that I couldn't do because they had to go up high, and I can't really manage on a ladder real well because of my knees. And he also helped build a workbench up in my hayloft, so we would have like a shelf to put tools and stuff on. It was like, oh my God, it was so great to have a handyman around the house, but even sweeter because we did a barter. And what I like about barter is the exchange of energy. It's my gift for your gifts, right? And, obviously you have to, have some sort of discussion to see what's fair. And both people feel like, okay, that feels good. That feels fair. One way to do it is like, what's your hourly rate? What's my hourly rate? Okay. I did a 2-hour reading for you. Okay. And my rate's a little bit more. So you give me 3 hours of your time and we'll call it square. And it was like, cool. And that's what happened. So, but anyway, I just love that because of the energy exchange. And, as long as there's a balance to it, it's really kind of cool. And yes, and Susan's asking, natural handyman. Yeah, that's his business. And so, which was really, really fun. And it turns out, that I met him because he came to that herbal medicine class that I hosted. He came with his girlfriend, who is my massage therapist. And so it was like all of this, like friend of the friend, and it was just awesome. Anyway, so the herbs I want to tell you all about. So there is something called diatomaceous earth. And you can buy bags of this diatomaceous earth. Welcome, Anthony. Welcome, Michelle. So diatomaceous earth, you buy it, and it kind of looks like whitish clay powder. And what this is, it's very dense in all of the minerals that have we've lost out of our food chains, at least here in America. And so what you do is you take some, like a tablespoon or two of this diatomaceous earth, and you mix it in some water really well. And then you let all the sediment come down, and then you drink the water on top. You don't actually drink the slurry part of it. And what this does is it balances all of the minerals in your body that you need. And one of the side effects that this 73-year-old woman who taught the class swears about is it reverses gray hair. And she said she showed, like, she only had the teeniest little bit of gray hair on her head. And she's 73. And she said her sisters who don't take this diatomaceous earth were all gray and white, and had to dye their hair if they wanted it. But she was naturally still had full color to her hair because she was taking a little bit of this diatomaceous earth every day, just as a way to make sure her body had enough minerals to work with. And I thought, okie dokie, that's not a hard thing to do. So I'm going to try it. I'll keep you posted. We'll all know as the weeks go on if it's actually working or not. But I thought that was fun. And the other thing, I think I mentioned it last week, but it's worth mentioning again, is turmeric oil. She said if you get turmeric oil, which happens to be really stinky, so you want to combine it with like peppermint oil or spearmint oil or some fragrance that you like. And if you apply a little bit on your neck, right under your ears on both sides, it is known to help with restoring hearing, as well as it gets up inside the brain and the optic nerves, and can help with eyesight. And it can help with getting rid of the amyloid plaque in the brain cells. So they've seen it actually help reverse Alzheimer's, dementia, and for people that are just getting a tiny bit older and like losing what's that word or getting lost in thought every now and again. Supposedly it helps to increase the efficiency of the brain by removing this amyloid plaque. So I'll definitely, keep you posted. There's a company in the US called Mountain Rose that is highly recommended for a lot of these different kinds of herbs and supplements and stuff. But I'll definitely keep you all posted, see how it all works out. But, there's, one of the things like the medical disclaimer, right? Anybody who teaches or shares these things says, oh, this is not medical advice, experiment at your own risk, all this kind of jazz. But you know what? Here's the part about street talk. What do we do with street talk? We share stuff, right? I hear it from somebody else. I'm going to tell you, right? It's like my old New Yorker. Forget about it. I don't, forget about all these crazy rules. I'm going to just share, take it or leave it, try it or not, but what the heck? She's 73. She's in perfect health and she looks amazing. And if she's telling me try the diatomaceous earth and try a little bit of this turmeric oil, once a night, once a week, whatever makes sense for you, can't hurt, might help. Why not? Although the stinkiness, I guess you have to check with your partner if you sleep with somebody to make sure that you have a fragrance that is okay for them, because you don't want to, hurt your love life because you're trying to fix your brain, right? Or improve your functioning. All right. So that's been what's going on this week. So let's dive into tonight's messages from Spirit. So the very first one that I got, and let me just back it up a little bit. So if you are listening live, you get the benefit of being able to put questions in the chat, put all caps in there, and if there's a topic you want me to definitely comment on or start a conversation about, put that in there. Thank you, Lorna. It's a new one I was messing around with. So one of the things is, if you're tuning in after the fact, well, first of all, thank you for tuning in. I love the fact that, you were clicking around on the internet and you saw this and it caught your attention and you're like, sure, let's go watch this lady here from Wisconsin and see what she has to say. But the messages that we share tonight, they're not just for who is listening live. I have this agreement with Spirit, and I totally believe that no matter when you tune in, whether it's tomorrow, next week, next year, or whenever that you're listening or watching this particular episode, the messages that Spirit comes now are going to touch your heart. It's going to be perfect timing for you whenever you hear them. Okay, so with that caveat, let's get into it. So the first message tonight was balance. And balance says, ask Spirit for help to achieve and maintain balance, stability, and composure. Self-confidence grows as you steady your physical and spiritual life. Yeah, spiritual and physical life, right? All the worldly stuff and all of your metaphysical, esoteric stuff. Boy, sometimes it seems like it is a challenge, isn't it? To make them partners instead of this conflict going back and forth. Hey, Joan, welcome. Or Joanne. Okay, welcome. Next card, angel card, is the card of acceptance. And this says, see yourself and others through the eyes of the angels with unconditional love and acceptance. In this way, you inspire and lift everyone to their highest potential. I love this card, and I love the word acceptance. For a long time, the buzzword around used to be tolerate. Tolerance, have tolerance for everybody. But when you tolerate something, it kind of implies that you don't like it, but you're putting up with it, right? So instead of that, if you have this feeling of acceptance, which is one step short of love, unconditional love, at least you're moving in the right direction. If you can accept everybody as, hey, we are all brothers and sisters on this planet, right? Whether you believe we're all sons and daughters of God, aspects of creation, or we just happen to all be here at the same time for the same ride, doesn't matter. We're all here. So we should look at this with this sense of love and gratitude and acceptance whenever we can. And gratitude was the next card. Okay. And gratitude says, your guidance is to count your blessings. When you say thank you to the universe for its gifts, it will respond generously to you. Remember to say thank you for all you have, the intangible as well as the tangible. Whenever you say thank you from your heart, more is bestowed upon you. For gratitude is the key to opening the doors to universal abundance. Cultivate an attitude of gratitude and open yourself to receive love and plenty into your life. Your angels will smile on you and bless you as you are grateful for everything in your life. I learned that lesson about gratitude a long time ago. And I think that's partly a function of having experienced so much tragedy and loss at young ages and sudden losses, that I learned to express love and gratitude for the people in my life, for the friends in my life, for the things that I had, because you just never knew when someone or something would be taken from you or from me. I didn't know. So I really worked on just having that feeling of, I am just so grateful. And for a while, I would start every day, every morning in my journal with, what am I grateful for today? And at the end of the day, as I was laying there at night, I would be giving thanks for everything wonderful that happened. And even if the wonderful was, I didn't hurt as much today, thank you, God. Or, I could hear the birds in the morning, and boy, that really just set my day off on a wonderful note. So thank you for the birds outside my window. Even if they were little things, having that sense of gratitude in my heart. I remember one time I was driving cross country I was on my way to the Monroe Institute. It's a 2-day drive from Wisconsin. And I was about halfway through, about getting ready to stop. And I think I was driving through at that point, maybe Kentucky into West Virginia-ish area, somewhere around there. And I was just overcome with the beauty of the landscape and the mountains and the greenery. And I just started talking to God out loud in my car, like, Heavenly Father, look at what you've created. This is amazing. It's so beautiful. And I feel so blessed to be able to drive and see all of this. And thank you. And like, I'm literally streaming tears as I'm driving, because my heart was just so blown open, but in that moment. And I thought afterwards, I'm like, wow, I should make sure I spend more time truly just opening my eyes and looking around me and expressing gratitude for the amazing blessings and things in my life, because they're just phenomenal. And, I think that too often, when we're dealing with pain, or we're dealing with challenges, or we're dealing with, crazy people in our life, or contention, or, all kinds of craziness around us, it's a challenge to stop for a second and thinking of the blessings. And Lorna, yeah, I'm going to pop that up there, Lorna, because that comment is definitely worth sharing. So she was thinking of that when she was clearing out, of how lucky she is to have enough. And yes, isn't that also like the blessings as I'm having the tag sale or pulling things out of the closet, to sell at an auction. And it's like, wow, I have all these clothes. There's probably, and the truth of it is, there's probably 10 outfits that I wear 90% of the time. But I still have a whole closet full of other clothes and drawers full of stuff that I use once in a blue moon. And I'm like, okay, that's very American, right? We got more shoes we can ever use, and how many pairs of sneakers, and how many handbags and all that stuff, right? But it is definitely something to count your blessings for, when you realize, like, there's people that are so needy. Like, I would go on a Goodwill auction. I bought some stuff at a Goodwill auction, and I went to pick it up at Goodwill earlier today, and I went to the wrong place. I didn't realize the pickup department was a different building when you order stuff online than when you're there. And so I went into the main Goodwill store, and I'm looking around at people that are in a lot of need, and they are going through the clothes in the bins, and they are happy to and needing to buy their bags of clothes at $1.29 a pound, because it's not per outfit or per thing. The clothes at this Goodwill is fill up your bag, and it's $1.29 a pound. And I could just kind of feel the energy of, like the scavenger hunt for people, but also the joy when they found something that was their size, or the size of their child, that they were finding things at a price they could afford. And I kind of sat in my car afterwards, and I'm like, I am so blessed, that I don't have to go to a Goodwill store to buy my clothes if I want to buy new clothes, right? First, I really don't need to buy new clothes, because as I said a few minutes ago, my closet's full. So unless it's like for a wedding or some big new event that I, need to buy something that the bride or the family wants, I don't need to buy anything else. So I'm really blessed, right? And how many of us are like that? We have plenty of food to eat each night. We have a roof over our head, and we know, it's stable. We're not going to lose our house. I have a friend who is struggling to pay their rent, and they're not sure if they are going to be evicted next month or not, because they're not sure if they're going to be able to pay the rent. And like, that's scary stuff. I'm blessed. I don't have to worry about that, right? So even the things that maybe we take for granted because it's just how our life is, kind of when you step back and compare to how many people are either struggling or really fighting to make ends meet, it is humbling. It is something where, we should feel that sense of gratitude, and we should also be as generous as we can with others, right? With our time, with our services, with our stuff. I literally had a girlfriend, I think I had shared it in a prior episode. She had lost almost everything in Hurricane Helene last year. And she finally got a chance to come out and visit. And it was my joy to walk with her from room to room over to my workshop, where I have a lot of stuff in storage and lots of stuff I'm going through to sell in auctions and do other things with. And basically say, the store is open and everything's free, or I have 2 or 3 of these. Do you want one? And we filled up a couple of suitcases and a couple of boxes to ship back. And I'm telling you, my heart was so filled with gratitude and delight at being able to help a friend in need and share my stuff that way. And so there is something really amazing when we realize, like, oh, I really don't need this anymore, or I certainly don't need 2 of these. Who do I know that might want or need this? And making them the beneficiary of our generosity and filling their life and their heart with blessings. It is such a wonderful feeling when we bless others, right? So, okay. So Susan is asking, I'll get back to these other cards in a minute, but I saw the question there. So Susan was asking, do I attend classes at the Monroe Institute? Oh, heck yeah. I have been taking classes there since the late 90s. I think I first went there in 1998. Unfortunately, Bob Monroe had died, so I didn't know him, but I met and became friends with his daughter, Lori, who ran the Institute, and then later on his daughter, Scooter, who took over and ran the Institute for a while. But I've been going there once or twice a year whenever I could afford it to take workshops and classes there. It is phenomenal. It's a consciousness institute in the Blue Ridge Mountains. My book, this Portrait of Potential, the Muse of Monroe, this is a giant rose quartz crystal that's at Monroe in a fire pit. And one night after class, I took that picture. And most of the channelings that are in this book came through while I was at Monroe. So it's a really cool place. I actually talk about, let's see if I can find it here quickly. Maybe yes, maybe no. We'll see. Yeah. So the Monroe Institute, I talk about it in the book itself. That's a picture of one of the main houses there. Beautiful sunsets. It's in the Blue Ridge Mountains. And I dedicated the proceeds of the book to the scholarship fund from it. So it's $10 on Amazon. And like I said, the proceeds go to the scholarship fund there. But yeah, the Monroe Institute is the bomb. They use science and technology to help you expand your consciousness and have all kinds of adventures. And I just love the fact that it's based in science. Once upon a time I was a chemist, and I worked for IBM. Oh, yeah, this was a Fortune 500 company. I worked for a Fortune 500 company as a programmer and a corporate auditor, and as a professional meeting facilitator, and eventually as a business management consultant. And so, I have this very scientific brain and side of me that loves how science can help, but I also have this mystical, metaphysical, spiritual side. And so I love this place of the Monroe Institute where the two of them can really dovetail, and the science supports the spirit. And we can go from there. Okay. All right. So the rest of the reading here. So the 10 of Cups. So I picked 3 tarot cards for messages for today. So the past is the 10 of Cups, and the 10 of Cups is all about celebration, harvest, enjoying what we've worked for, and having people that we love to share those moments with. The 4 of Swords is what's happening now, and this is a feeling of worthiness. And that particular card is based from the old King Arthur tales of how the knights, before they went out on the quest for the Holy Grail, they would hang their swords from the rafters, sleep underneath them that night, and if they lived in the morning, they would be like, they had the thumbs up from God that they were worthy to go out on the quest for the Holy Grail. So it's interesting. It's following this card of all our blessings. What sometimes happens to us is we're like, do I deserve this? Am I worthy of this? Is it okay that I have all this? Kind of circling back to some of our possessions possibly, but even just all the blessings in our life. How many times do we push away the blessings or discount them because we don't think we're worthy of it, right? So this is all about, we're worthy. We got to figure out, how to make sure we feel good about that. And then the future card here is the death card reversed. And the death card reversed is new beginnings. It is the end of the old, making way for the new. And that can be how you're feeling and thinking about things. If you start changing your mind and saying, hey, you know what? I know I am worthy. I know I have worked on balance. I've worked on accepting other people in my life as equals. I look at everybody as brothers and sisters, and I try to love and be as accepting as I can of them and their path, even if it doesn't make sense to me. It's okay. Does it make sense to them? God bless them, let them go. I try to have gratitude in my life, not only for the people, but for my life, for my health, for my experiences, for everything that I have. I try to express gratitude for, as well as for the things that are around me, the beauty of nature, the ability to have some time off, to be able to go on a vacation or to drive through nature or to spend time with loved ones. These are all things to be profoundly grateful for. And then finally, I cracked open my book and said, okay, what's a message I can share tonight? And it came to do what is right all the time, no matter what. If you live your life with integrity, ethics, morals, civics, and focus on what is righteous, true, charitable, and loving, you will live a quality life, regardless of your external circumstances. Your life will have purpose and meaning far greater than what you do to earn your daily bread. Right. So integrity, ethics, morals, civics, righteousness, truth, charity, love. These are all qualities that we have and express, right? Really doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, whether you're working or unemployed, whether you're retired, whether you're healthy or not. Those qualities and attributes and characteristics we can all ascribe to have. And if we really work on having them and cultivating them in our life, then we'll have a wonderful quality of life, regardless of what's happening around. We'll have that sense of peace. We'll know we're on the path to becoming the best possible version of ourselves that we can, that we are fulfilling the purpose that we were born to, that our soul wants us to express. So those are the things that bring us peace at the end of each day. Those are the things that bring us joy in our life and contentment, and being like, at the end of the day, at the end of our life, it's going to be, okay, you know what? I did the best I could with what I had. I always strove to do the right thing. I was righteous and loving and caring. I was a good person. I did the best I could, and I was a good person, and I had a positive impact on the lives that I touched. Is there really a lot more that anybody could ask of us than to do that? Do they really care what our bank balance was at the end of the day? As long as we had enough to pay our bills, I suppose, right? And didn't leave anybody in debt when we said goodbye. I don't know. We chase a lot of things here in the Western world. We go after things a lot. And sometimes I wonder, are we really going after the right things? Are we going after the things that really matter? I know I've shared this before, but it's worth sharing again. That there was a man I was counseling, and he was looking for life coaching, and he was having some struggles. And he would say to me over and over again, the most important thing to him in his life was his family, and spending time with his family and being with his family and making sure his family, knew how much he loved them and was there for them. And yet he was a workaholic, and he never had time to go to the ball games, and he often got home late and wasn't there. Sometimes, the kids barely saw him because he would get home after the kids went to bed and he was up and out before they were even up for school. Right. And so I stopped him and I said, well, look at your work life. Why are you doing that? Oh, because I love my family. I said, yeah, got it. But look at how what you've chosen as a way to provide for your family is actually interfering with your ability to be there in the way that you said earlier you wanted to be there. You want to be able to go to a ball game. You want to be able to be there to go to a dance recital. You want to be there to have dinner with your family, to tuck them into bed and read stories to them. And he's like, yep. So sometimes you have to kind of step back, and whether you're working with a life coach like me or just kind of, running through it on your own is, do that inventory and say, okay, what do I say is the most important thing in my life? And are my actions and the way I've structured my life supporting that or getting in the way of it? If it's supporting it, yay you. If it's actually conflicting or undermining it or hurting it, you need to kind of step back and say, all right, what changes can I make to get this more in alignment so that I am actually living with that integrity of, if I say this is the most important thing, how are my actions also demonstrating that this is the most important thing, right? So I just wanted to kind of share that a little bit since that came up through the cards and through the book. All righty, y'all. Let's see, what questions do we have tonight? So remember, if you want to ask a question, please put it in all caps. And if there is a comment or a topic that you would like to have a bit of a conversation about, please put that in there as well. Okay, so this is kind of going back to what we talked about a little bit before, but Lorna's sharing that, the whole world stopped on 9/11, even in Scotland. And there are certain moments in time, both positive and negative, where the world collectively took notice, right? I think the collapse of the Berlin Wall was another one that was a major thing. I think the bombings back, the first uses of the atomic bomb in World War II, I think that's another one where the whole world went, what the hey? I think there's been certain acts of terrorism, but I think there's also been some acts of heroism, like when Captain Sully Sullenberger landed, the Miracle on the Hudson, and landed that plane there and saved all those people. And you're like, how did that happen, right? I don't know if that made the news internationally. And unfortunately, I will tell you this, Lorna, I know from living in Europe, because for 18 months from February of 1993 through the end of the summer of 1994, I lived in Europe. And I was amazed at how, no matter what country I was in, they knew about American politics, what was happening in the news, even in the weather. Like if there was floods or tornadoes, the knowledge was incredible. I remember a taxi driver in Amsterdam, having a conversation with me about the congressional races back in New York, the state I lived in at the time. And I was like, how do you know about congressmen in New York? And he's like, oh, well, I follow this and I read that. And I'm like, dang, asked me to even name who the president, premier, queen, king of Denmark was at the time. I couldn't even tell you. And I was a visitor in that country. I couldn't even tell you who the king or queen or the ruler was, let alone a congressman or some local happening. And in the US, I will tell you, it's very sad that for the most part, the news is so myopic that unless it's something really major like Pompeii erupting again, or some major accident or major war escalation, we don't even get it on our news. So it's really sad. So I am in awe of the world nations that you pay so much attention to what's happening everywhere in the world, and you really do have your finger on the pulse in a way that is very inspiring. And I think the closest thing to that now is the connections we have on social media, so we have friends around the world and we can, get it that way. But the regular broadcast news, it's rare that there's anything other than local. And I'll tell you, even like the local news here in Wisconsin, I rarely hear about stuff in other states. I have to watch the national news channel. And I guess that's maybe it's a function of practicality. Like, if you need to know what's happening in your local news more than you do, do I really need to know if there was a bus crash in Chile? Probably not, unless I'm planning on going to Chile sometime soon, which would be really cool, but I'm not. I don't have that plan. All right. Anyway, but thanks for giving us that little food for thought there, Lorna. All righty. Let's see. Other questions here. Oh, okay. So Deke is asking here for a reading. So Deke, what I would ask you to do is yes. The answer is yes. And when I'm reading for like one person, what I ask you to do is in the chat, ask a specific question or narrow it down to a topic of something you want to know about your work or relationships or health or something a little bit more. Because whenever I read for one person, there's always going to be part of the answer to that that's going to kind of, somebody else is going to hear it and go, oh yeah, that kind of applies to me too. Okay. So give me a little bit more than that. And if not, I'll just kind of tune in at a really high level and I'll see what the first thing Spirit tells me. But I'll give you a chance first to put something in the text in the chats there. Okay. Okay. So Anthony Lewis has said here, we are our own doctors. Amen to that, Anthony. So we have to be very proactive, guys. We know our bodies better than anybody else. If you have cats or dogs and pets that live in your home, you probably are more aware of what's happening with them than anybody else. You know what normal is for you. You know what normal is for your kids. You know what normal is for your pets, right? So when something is off, you're the first one who can react to it. And turning to natural remedies and doing things that just make common sense before you look to, going into a hospital or seeking medical advice, first tune within and see, like, what is Spirit telling you? Are you drinking enough water? Are you getting enough good balanced nutrition? Are you getting exercise? Are you getting enough fresh air and sunlight? So many people are vitamin D deficient because they don't get out into the sun anymore because everybody is panicked about, oh my God, don't get a sunburn. Well, yeah, don't get a sunburn, but you need the sunshine, folks. We are solar beings. We live in a planet that's by the sun, and we chose this planet for a reason. The sun is part of what gives us our energy. We need that for balance. You won't sleep well at night because if you don't get enough sunshine during the day. Why? Because the sun, when we register, we're out in it and we feel it and we see it, it resets something in our brain and it triggers the production of melatonin later on, which helps us sleep. So if you don't get the melatonin from getting the good sunshine or the good vitamin D from being out in the sunshine, well, then you take supplements. But there's, little things that you might get a prompting of, hey, I should just go sit on my front porch and just soak in the rays a little bit. Or I should go walk in the park and just feel that sunshine. I'm not saying, get a 3rd-degree sunburn by slathering up on the beach and laying there for 8 hours, right? But you need some sun, right? So you want to do the things that feel right. Obviously, if it's an emergency and you don't know what the heck is going on, get yourself to a doctor, call 911 or whatever the equivalent is overseas. Get yourself to a health clinic or a hospital. If it's an emergency and you don't know what's going on and things seem like they're going in the wrong direction, ask for help. But the first help you should ask for, as Anthony's reminding us, we're our own doctors. Spirit can prompt us. The other day, I looked at my hands and I was noticing how veiny the veins looked all of a sudden, how protruding they were on the skin or noticeable they were on the skin. And I was like, oh, I wonder if that's a problem. And I hear Spirit say, no, silly, you're just dehydrated. You're not drinking enough water. I'm like, duh. Okay. But if I was all in a panic and said, oh my God, I can see my veins, I better go run to a vein specialist, that would have been overreacting a little bit. But spirit helps us. And sometimes it's just common sense things that are contributing to issues and problems. And it's really important that we kind of step back and say, okay, what makes sense here? Okay. Thanks for that, Anthony. All righty. And then let's see, we have more people that are applauding the idea of cleaning out and purging. Yes, we are. The need to purge, right, Dal? Okay. And Susan's agreeing with me. So her numbers are a little better, that she wears 20% of the clothes 80% of the time. So you're better off than I am. I'm probably not even that good. Okay. And then we have a few people saying the cards are resonating with them tonight, and also talking about the overseas news. Yep. Okay. Oh, okay. So we do have, Anthony has a topic to talk about. Thoughts on how much solar flares are messing with people's energies. So what I know about that. So when there are big solar flares, what happens is we have a disruption of the geomagnetic fields, and magnetic fields control a bunch of devices, right, that are very subtle. A lot of electrical equipment. If the microwaves that come and the geomagnetic waves can interfere with different radio signals and satellite signals. And if it's really big and it bombards us with all kinds of, I'm thinking I don't remember. There's some kind of solar particles that come on down, like it's not radiation per se, but the particles come down. It can absolutely mess with not just our equipment and any devices that are electrical, but we have our own aura and our own subtle, but our own electric field around us, right? We have those positive and negative charges in our bodies and all the cells, and a lot of what makes our blood flow and our energy synapses, connect, and the thoughts connect, is these interactions that are happening on really small levels, very subtle levels. And so if you get this big bombardment of these waves of energy that are strong enough to mess up a microwave tower or satellite dish or a satellite itself, or mess with the electric grid because it's such a strong burst, it's not a big stretch to say, well, something that powerful that's affecting our machinery and electronics would certainly have an effect on us. And the other part of it is the sun is one of our celestial bodies that are part of our whole astrology, and all of the planets and how they circle around the sun and how they have certain properties and where they are when you're born and where they are now versus where you are in your life. If you talk to a really good astrologer, they can tell you an awful lot about what's happening in your life based on what's happening in the heavens. And so if the sun is basically having a hissy fit, and spitting out all these massive solar flares and ejecting part of its core out and sending these gigantic waves and all these particles that are coming down and bombarding us, it's not a big stretch to say, yeah, you know what? Probably going to be messing with people's energy, probably going to be having effects on mood, on just feeling, whether we're feeling out of balance. There's some people that are extremely sensitive to electromagnetic fields. The 73-year-old woman that came here to teach the class said that she has to be really careful if she's driving underneath high power wires. She actually gets nauseous or gets migraines because she's that sensitive to those kind of energy fields. So I think the more purified your body is, and this is a person who lives on her own 5-acre homestead, grows all her own food, 99% of her food. She grows there, or she goes to organic farmers around her to get meat sources and fish sources that are reliable and that she understands, what's in them. But she's like healthier than healthy. So the fact that she's that purified in her body and doesn't have a lot of dyes and preservatives and all the rest of the junk that many of us who don't eat quite as healthfully as she does, she's going to be more sensitive to it. And so, so that's a long answer to your question there, Anthony, but I really do think that solar flares do have an ability to mess with some people's energies and impact us in ways both from the literal particles and energy fields that are bombarding us and all our equipment and stuff around us, to astrologically, what does it mean, when the sun, like I said, is having that hissy fit, because the sun is a strong driver of a lot of things in people's astrological charts. So, but for more, call your favorite astrologer. And if anybody needs one, that's amazing. I can refer Nancy McMonigal, who is in, I think she's in Nellies Ford, Virginia. And you can find her online. She is an amazing astrologer, and she can tell you everything and anything about you, your charts, and what's happening with the heavens if you want to know. So do Google her and look her up and tell her that Althea sent you. Okay. All right. And here we are with 1 minute to the end of the show. Wow. All righty now. Well, thank you all for tuning in again. I really appreciate you coming back each week. For those of you who are regulars, please make sure you do all the good things, like it, ring the bell, share, subscribe, do all that. Thank you again. And have an amazing week, everybody. Get out there, shine your light, share your love, share your gifts, do the best you can, be loving with yourself, be as loving as you can. Oh, one last quick question there popped in. How does breathing help with energy control? Oh yeah, for sure. Deep breathing, energetic breathing. I'll talk a lot more about this. Tune in next week, Anthony. Remind me again early in the chat, and I will talk a lot about breathing because there is more than I can answer in the 30 seconds that are left here tonight. So I love you all for coming in. Thank you again. This is Althea from Spiritual Street Talk with Althea Jacob. Come join us again live, or thank you for tuning in if you're tuning in some other time. Hope you have a blessed, wonderful week, and go out there and just become the best possible version you can of yourself, and be unconditionally forgiving, loving, and kind, first to yourself, and then have that great positive impact on the lives of others. All right, y'all, have a great week. Love you, and hang in there. I know things are a little crazy, but they will get better. Promise. Take care now. Bye-bye.
Coming to a YouTube channel near you.